Engineer Suleiman Adamu, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's begin now with the Water Resources Bill, which has become sort of controversial. Mixed reactions ongoing right now. What is your perspective on this particular bill?
Well, this controversy is unnecessary and is unfortunate. I think there are a couple of people that are deliberately trying to mislead the public. The bill was presented to the Senate. Before then, it had been passed by the House of Representatives without any rancor. Public hearings were held. Even in the Senate, a public hearing was held. It was legitimate for the senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to ask questions when the bill was presented. It was within their legitimate right to ask, and we're providing the answers. But some people outside the legislature, or people have taken it outside the confines of the legislature into the public domain and are trying to mislead people. How
do you think they're trying to mislead people? What is it about the bill?
Well, we have asked what are the issues. I think people are talking about the custodianship of water. Some people think that federal government is trying to create a right of way on the banks of rivers to hand them over to Fulani herdsmen and so on. Just people whipping, taking advantage of the sentiments of the moment unnecessarily, and this is a huge disservice to the country.
So one of the important aspects of that bill that says that water would now belong to the federal government, and then perhaps all that is within, which maybe, of course, Nigerians are not used to. Is that out of context?
There is nothing out of context. This law, what is about this bill is a consolidation of existing laws. There is a law, a decree, the Water Resources Decree of 1993 that was transformed into the Water Resources Act of 2004. It's in the laws of the Federation of Nigeria. Then we brought on board the River Basin Development Act. We brought in the Nigeria Hydrological Services Act. We brought in the Nigeria Water Resources Institute Act. And instead of having these fragmented laws, we all put them into one document. And this process started in 2006 and was concluded in 2008 with stakeholder meetings, workshops, and roadshows across all the geopolitical zones. What happened is not new. The bill was left comatose. For some reason, no other administration championed it. It wasn't a priority to them until we came. There is nothing new in that bill. Federal government has always been the custodian of water resources in this country, as long as all the waters that are transboundary between countries and transboundary between states.
Does it not take away land from the people?
There is nothing about taking away land. This bill is consistent with the Land Use Act. If the land on the, on the banks of the river belongs to the states and the communities that have them. But all we are trying to do is, sometimes you have unusual flows of water, they are flooding, and it flows over the banks. The responsibility for that water still rests with the government. If the river dries up and the land is reclaimed, it belongs to the people. But we are concerned only with the water resources, not the land itself.
But the water is on the land.
So, can we put the water in the sky?
So we're saying the same thing. Is it not robbing the people of their land?
There's nothing like robbing the people of the land. The water resource is what we are talking about, the riverbed and the banks of the river. The confines, it's like a ball of water or a rectangular water.
How do you separate what the government wants and what belongs to the people?
The land belongs to the people. Yes. It's clear. There is no ambiguity about it. But the water resource is to be regulated by the federal government because it crosses boundaries. 80% of the water resources in Nigeria are generated within Nigeria. But let me also tell you that most of the water is either from the River Niger or the River Benue. River Niger gets into Nigeria from Kebbi State. River Benue comes in through Adamawa State. If there is no regulation by the federal government, tomorrow Kebbi State can arbitrarily dam River Niger, or Adamawa State can arbitrarily dam River Benue. What do you think will happen downstream? People will be affected, and that's what we are trying to protect. If that happens, there will be no delta. Kogi State Anambra State, Oguta, all those places will be affected. Most of the water that is flowing southwards, apart from rivers Niger and Benue, also the watershed is the Jos Plateau and the Mambila Highlands. And they are in northern Nigeria. So most of the agitators against this bill are actually the ones being protected.
Why is the dividend of this bill being, I mean, people don't really understand it. They don't really understand the gains they might derive from this. So why is the whole disconnect happening right now?
Like I said, it's pure politics. It's pure politics.
And there are several groups that have risen to play this politics.
But yeah, unfortunately. But this bill went through a process. There was a public hearing, even in the House of Reps, and there was no issue, and it was passed. Why the brouhaha today? You should ask yourself. You know, what we are doing is to protect the water resources of this country. The law has been there. It has always been there. We are not reinventing the wheel. We are only consolidating all the bills together. The only new things that I can mention, we need to regulate the water sector, just like we have done to the power sector, so that we can bring in the private sector into the game, because it's becoming apparent that states and federal government alone cannot run water schemes. So we're making provision for the private sector to come in. That is one. Number two, the irrigation management in this country. We are now also providing, within the confines of this law, the opportunity for farmers under what we call a Water Users Association to participate in the management of irrigation systems. Another thing is we now have what we call catchment management committees, and they comprise of all the states. The states will be represented. Even the regulatory agency will have representatives from the states. And that means the regulation of how water is used is now taken off from the federal government and given to an independent authority.
So how exactly are you going to be protecting people whose livelihoods depend on water, for instance?
We have always, the law has been there, they have always been protected. Has there ever been an issue till date? No. It's the same law.
So there hasn't been an issue till date, but right after this bill sails through, it comes into full effect.
There is not going to be any issue. There is not going to be any issue. This bill promotes integrated water resources management. Integrated water resources management implies we have to look at water holistically. We have to give people a say in how the water resources are being exploited. That's why now we have to license. Previously, federal government could pick any river and dam it. You know, there was a time when we didn't even have environmental impact assessment, and we built dams in this country. But this bill is saying, no, these things cannot happen. There has to be a regulation. That's why we have now, we already have an Integrated Water Resources Management Commission, but which is not really backed by law, because we'll be licensing. If you have to do a power plant, you have to get a water license. If you are doing mining, you have to get a water license. If you are doing commercial exploitation of water, you have to get a water license. And those are the ways to protect people. So, and we're also saying there cannot be private ownership of water. What it means is that some money bag or some powerful individual cannot come and commandeer a river and say it is his own, or commandeer a lake and say it is his own. Because the water is for everybody's use, is for public good, but the use has to be regulated.
Which was not really done through the Water Resources Act of 2004.
No, it's there. I'm telling you, all these provisions are already in the act that has been existing since 1993. There is nothing new. I mentioned the regulatory agency. It's not that there's been no regulation. The former act, the existing act, Water Resources Act 2004, gives the minister enormous amount of powers over water resources in this country. This bill is devolving some of those powers from the minister to the states. And people don't understand. So that's why I'm really, I'm saying people are being confused. Because what people are arguing is the exact opposite of what this bill is trying to do. This bill is trying to protect everybody.
So what is the relationship between this bill and cattle colony? Because we hear that, oh, this is going to favor, the Fulani herdsmen and all of that.
There is no iota of truth. Tell me any community that doesn't have a stream or a river. It's just protecting water for downstream users. That's all. There is nothing about land on this, in this bill. The issue is just about how we manage and regulate our water resources. I have told you this bill is consistent with the Land Use Act. That it's not in conflict at all with the Land Use Act. Nobody is taking anybody's land. This bill is about water resources.
Thank you very much, Engineer Adamu Suleiman Adamu. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Well, thank you for your mails and tweets as always. I'll take a few of them right away, which are comments that followed our conversation with presidential spokesman Mr. Femi Adesina. Now, Bayo Fatumbi says, if I were President Buhari, I will take the criticisms constructively, act upon them against February 2019. Your team needs to learn from former President Goodluck Jonathan. The clock is ticking away. Another one from Olufemi Makinde says, the people in power today are those who have enjoyed the glorious days Nigeria was once in, and instead of improving on it, they have taken pleasure to destroy it the more. The president should leave the seat of power for the agile and able hands for those who can make our economy grow. Well, here's another comment from Sunday Galadima, who says, we should always pray for our leaders instead of always looking at their bad sides alone. You should also talk about the good ones. Well, keep sending in your views and comments using the email address and Twitter handle on your screen. Also, be sure to share anything happening within your locality. Thank you for sending those mails, and don't forget you can view the program on youtube.com/channelsweb/videos. Thank you for watching this week. I'm Gloria Umezuke. See you again.